people think of the singularity, sort of the Kurzweilian singularity, as being like when AI is smarter than humans. But before we get there, I think we're going to see that AI becomes able to persuade us. So I call instead of super intelligent, it's super persuasive. And so even before we start getting computers entirely replacing people, or sort of concomitantly at the same time, we're going to start seeing them able to sort of hack the structures we already use for like engagement, for advertising, and we're going to get to hyper-personalized messaging that works exactly for you, for exactly your psyche. It'll create, like if you want to have a political ad, that political ad will, like the politician's face will be blended with your own, and it'll use your like voices modeled off of your parents, and so it'll have the authority of somebody you trust, and you're going to have no choice but to be persuaded. So that's one area of AI that I don't think we've spent a lot of time thinking about. The other one that I hear all the time is like, oh, okay, yes, AI is going to start taking over jobs, in particular these sort of like rote things, but they can't be creative. And I think that's another one of those things where it's like, no, that's just humans wanting to feel special. The time that sort of my stomach dropped out, and it's like, oh my gosh, they're coming for me in a sense, is when I first learned about what are called word embeddings, or thought vectors or word vectors, and essentially entirely unsupervised. Today, we have algorithms that can read through, say, all of Wikipedia and convert every word into a vector. It's just like a point that you can add and subtract to do metaphor. So the standard example is you can take king minus man plus woman equals queen, which is just to say that king is to man as woman is to queen, and so computers can start doing metaphor. And metaphor, for me, is where creativity comes from. The currency of creativity is metaphor, because that's where you're drawing a little bit over here to a little bit over here. You put them together to create something new. That is the heart and soul of creativity. You're like, oh, computers can get there. There was just the Watson team just did a thing where they're able to, I can't remember for which, I think it was Phil Morgan, where it made, all on its own, using sentiment analysis and all these other things, a trailer for the film. And as you watch it, you can't really tell that it was a computer that made it. It'll have increasingly profound implications. Sort of the near-term hope, I think, is, you know, this guy named Philip Tetlock did a lot of work on which pundits make good predictions. So you take all these political people and you're like, which one of these guys actually makes good predictions and why? And it turns out there are only two things that can predict how good the predictions are. One, how famous they are. The more famous, the less good the predictions, which I always think is funny. And then two is a cognitive style. So foxes and hedgehogs know one thing. They have one mental model of the world. Foxes know many little things. They have many mental models of the world. Hedgehogs with one model do worse than foxes, which have many mental models. So what does this teach us? And it actually turns out that that in AI, ensemble approaches almost always do better than the single approach. Why is this? It's because the world is very complex, and when you're coming up with a model, that model has to have fewer dimensions. It has to be a simplified version of the real world, so that means it's going to make mistakes. And that error, you want many different types of errors so they sort of cancel out. So when you think about AI thinks differently than us. So we have two different models of the world, so us in combination is better than either one apart. Garry Kasparov actually talks about this, where after he was beaten by Deep Blue, you're like, no human is ever going to beat computers again. He's like, and he formed something called advanced chess, where you put a computer and a human together, and it turns out that combination is better than any current computer. And so I think that gives us hope for the near term. But at some time, I don't know, 15, 20, 100 years in the future, like our cognitive processes will be able to be modeled, and that will no longer good. So you're going to have to start thinking about us in combination and the evolution of that. Anyway, some thoughts.